Hi, this is Alexcursus, a show where I take a look at some Gunpla and see how authentic they are. This time we are looking at the HG1-100 JMF1336R Rising Gundam. This kit is old. How old? It is old Bandai logo, first released in 1994. You may notice Rising Gundam does not have the GF prefix that you see with most mobile fighter in G Gundam. That is because Rising Gundam wasn't built to participate in Gundam fight. Rather, New Japan built Rising Gundam in order to fight Devil Gundam after it escaped. So they tasked Dr. Mikamura, who built the Shining Gundam, to build a second Gundam. For that, the result is Rising Gundam. And you will see very soon that Rising Gundam isn't joking around and does not have the gimmicks to try to hide its functionalities like Shining Gundam. I'll be rating these kits with Saga, Style, Action, Gimmick, and Absence. Style is how accurate does the Gunpla look to its counterparts in the anime, manga, games, or lore books. In case for Rising Gundam, we are in luck because the manual provides us with a line art from one Okawara. The top half looks pretty good, but when you get down to the legs, yeah, they are elongated. You can see it on the knee pads, very elongated. You can also see how there are lots of details on the line art that is not sculpted on this HG1-100. But aside from that, Rising Gundam have a good balance between the pretty long limbs and Okawara's design. Not to mention in the anime they do have longer limbs for the dramatic action scenes. Now let's take a closer look at the details. While it does not have quite as many details as they show in the line art in the menu, you still got the bogans on the head, the exhaust, very much like Shining Gundam, except no mask to disguise that Rising Gundam have that many exhausts. Down to the chest, machine cannon on the shoulders, germ in the middle of the chest, much like Shining Gundam. Again, not all the detail is sculpted, but there are a few. Down to the skirts, pretty substantial, even without all the even tinier sculpts. I'm quite satisfied with this. And then on the thigh, quite a bit of sculpt as well. Again, not quite as detailed as the line arts, but they are here. Down to the lower leg. Again, got some sculpt. Outside and inside of the calf. And then the ankle guard. Very well sculpted, but then the front is just, I guess it have features, but otherwise quite plain. But yeah, the foot itself have quite bits of details. Turn around to the back, you can see the details on the ankle joint. The back of the calf is pretty plain. Back skirt pretty plain, but a bit of sculpt as well. And then the backpack, one main thruster and then a bit of auxiliary thruster on the side in roll form, fin form. Backpack, as we will see, that's why it is in this interesting shape. The arms not too different from what we have been looking at for 12144HG. And then the shoulders. Quite a lot of sculpt lines to break out the otherwise boring white. And that is the time that we should talk about color separation. If you pay attention to the top of the video where I show the box, you will notice the shoulder should have a lot of red. And yeah, they are not in separate colors. They are in sticker form. I didn't use this sticker, one because they are massive, and two because they are old. I will save the discussion of how old this thing is later, but for now just know that I have no interest in doing these massive color correction stickers, and if you see here and a bit of the line art, you will know that there's something underneath. I wanted to save this part for later, but I did something that we can talk later. The gold part here would have been white, but otherwise very well sculpted. The top is completely plain though, kind of sad, but yeah. But yeah, otherwise overall, proportion and details isn't too bad on the HG1-100 Rising Gundam from 30 years ago, at least in its first release. Then we should talk about color separation. Yeah, the shoulder armor is quite horrendous. The top camera, I have to paint it, but the eyes is actually translucent green. There is even some light piping, if I can get the light hits right on the left eye, or on the right eye, if you can see. And you can also see the gem in the center. It has the gold backing, that's why it shines a lot better than the eyes. And the machine cannon is also in gold, kind of rare for the time periods, if not for anything that isn't MG. That is because I should cut to the past me. So this is before assembly, and I didn't take it out of the package for extra fancy. As you can see, the face, some of the thrusters, backpack or core lander, most of it, and the torso are being molded with multicolor plastic in the same runner, which you can see much clearer at the back. Remember guys, this is 30 years ago, and presumably Bandai do this just to save a bit of box space. Nowadays, they kind of put this part in, separate sprues because they know people need to paint them or do other modifications or other modeling stuff. But when you are trying to do a technical flex, yeah, doing multicolor runner on single parts, like pre-assembled, is a pretty damn powerful technical flex. So yeah, the torso is cast in sprue with multiple colors. And you would wonder about the transceiver, why it is blue instead of red. That is because understandably Bandai just color swapped the Shining Gundam for the Rising Gundam. So the sprue is actually Shining Gundam sprue. So when they do the color swap to swap out the blue and red, they didn't bother with the transceiver. It is a small piece after all, and they offer a color correction sticker that I just ignore because I do like the blue transceiver with the featureless face mask. We also supposed to have a black band in the skirt, and the ankle armor. The sticker would help to disguise part of the seam line here, but we don't have that. And the black band would be easy to recreate with some modern technology, but back then Bandai have the technology to do the correct color, but as we will talk about later, I think they wisely decided that this simple black can be skipped and recreate either by painting or color correction sticker. And as we will talk about, the weapons supposed to be in the weapon gray or weapon black you usually see with Gundam, but I don't think the blue is out of place. Overall, even ignoring the age of the Rising Gundam, as long as you can get the gold on the shoulder, either by painting or sticker, I will say it's pretty good. What isn't very good back then with the limitation of technology is part separation. Forearm is a simple left-right clamshell, although for some reason they have embossed line for the bicep that you don't see a lot, but nothing for the forearm that you see very often. It is interesting that they try to help you to do a gapless mod, but overall it is, I guess, standard for the time. Shoulder main two off, not a big deal. Sure, you can see the pegs on the underside here, but looks fine in the front and most angles, so not too bad here. Chest, just simple front back clamp, not much trouble to be honest. Not as nice as a modern kit, but again, you don't really see it from the top. The skirts we have talked about, no color separation for them, but not a big deal. The thigh, like the bicep, does have a embossed line in the middle for the assembly. You can see it at the very top of the thigh that there is a gap, but not so much down here. So that embossed line is helping a lot. Knee armor isn't helping a lot. Bandai did make an effort to create a golden knee thruster as a separate piece, but they couldn't bother to create a knee pad, which is a shame given how the leg would otherwise look good. Also kind of interesting, the outside of the calf is slightly thinner than the inside of the calf. I think I know how they did this, and that's why this is so thin, but it is not as noticeable unless you really look at it. It looks fine otherwise. Knee armor, like I said, the left-right isn't a great way to do it, but Bandai didn't figure that out even at the end of the 90s, so pretty typical here. The foot, it is unfortunate that there is this giant gap on the left foot. The backpack does have a seam line, but I mean, for a modern kit this would be bad, but compare this to whatever that is down on the foot, this is pretty fine. And yeah, back of Rising Gundam's head, you can see all these basically exhaust ducts rolling all behind the head, very much like a Japanese helmet. So part separation is where I think I should talk about how old this thing is. This giant gap here, some people would say it is a mold decoration thing, where as the mold start pumping out more models, it will wear and it will become less accurate. But usually that comes in the form of flashing, which we do see on some Shining Gundam spare part and that usually means a tighter fit. A wider gap would be something else. And that goes into my theory of the age of this thing. Uh, we do see the flashing, that is probably more degradation, so this thing is likely not the first print, so not quite 1994 old. However, this is a red Bandai, so it would be before 2018. And before 2018, there were not so many reprints of the G Gundam 1 to 100. And looking at the back of the sticker sheet here, it has gone all yellow. That's why I don't want to use any sticker here, because I don't think they will stick very well. Compare that to the plastic. The plastic holds up relatively well, so I would wager this is slightly newer. So the sticker might have been printed back in 1994. This thing, like the model itself, is probably printed slightly later, somewhere in the 1990s. So I think this thing is about 20 years old, which would be around the same time as my GM code strict type, which does have quite a few assembly gaps that you have to do a lot more work to correct compared to my newer reprints like the GM or the EcoPlat GM. So my assessment is this thing is at least 20 years old. It is possible that it is at the end of G Gundam's run because the show became a hit mid-season, and Bandai is just cranking out extra kits. So the earliest date of this thing, our factory would be about 1995, and the latest is probably year 2000, where they pretty much stopped printing these guys for MGs. Now Bandai do reprint these guys time to time throughout the years before 2018, but they are through Hobby Online a la P Bandai. And I doubt this is P Bandai because it is so worn out when I find it in a regular store. With very archaic part separation, amazing color separation with in-mold color separation, and then some outrageous amount of color correction stickers, and the very stretched out and not well done knee pad. I will give this kit a B for style. It gets points from everything above the knee is pretty accurate to Okawa's design. Like you can nitpick it, like sure there are a lot of detail missing, and the head isn't one-to-one to say, but it feels like that's how Rising Gundam should be, as you can see on another illustration in the menu. So yes, it doesn't have all the details. Yes, the legs and part separation is horrible. Color separation is questionable, but overall, Rising Gundam is a good design and they translate into 3D form quite well. So I'm going to keep it at a B. Next is action. Action isn't just the number of articulations, but also how useful those articulations are. Rising Gundam's head is on a single ball joint, so it's a lot less flexible compared to some modern kits, but possible, I guess, is the way to describe it. Torso have no crunch in the midsection, but does have some tolerance for the waist to go front and back, as well as side to side, providing the skirts aren't in the way. but again, the skirt does get in the way. Side skirt is on a ball joint. Admittedly, not a lot of movement. Front skirt is on a ball joint too. You can move it in such a way to give you a lot more clearance. And then the thigh is on a ball joint too. Knee armor kicks the front skirts, but you can bring it higher by bringing down the knee. Knee is on a double joint, but the armor design pretty much limited to 100 degrees, slightly more than 90. And then we got a ankle tilt, crazy enough. And then a ball joint at the foot. Rotation for knee armor, pretty standard. The arm is double jointed, but the armor design limited to about 150 degrees. And then you can swivel it to the side. Hand is on a ball joint, and if you haven't noticed, it have articulated fingers. The three fingers at the back are together, and then a index finger independent movement. Close up quite nicely for a fist. Shoulder is also on a ball joint. It goes about 60 degrees, that's it. And then you can swivel up around the ball joint. Shoulder armor can shift to accommodate the arm, but then again, ball joint, you can't do much. Backpack, main thruster can go up and down. And since this is a G Gundam kit, I think it is obligatory. Yeah, I mean, Rising Gundam can do it, but because it is very old, I wouldn't hold it here for too long. So while able to do a one leg stand, because Rising Gundam is quite limited on how far its legs can actually kick out or how far its arms can actually lift, and there's no ab crunch aside from a bit of waist movement. Waist movement is heavily impaired by the skirt, and the head only have one ball joint. So I have to keep Rising Gundam's action to a B. Next up is Gimmick. Gimmick are usually the onboard weapons and optional weapons for the mobile suit, but sometimes other functionalities. For the Rising Gundam, it would be the mobility mode, where it shed the oversized shoulder armor and exposing the heatsink armor underneath. The shoulder armor isn't supposed to be quite loose, but because I painted the heatsink already and I don't want to get them scratched, so I modified the tape for the shoulder armor, and so now it's pretty loose. Not the fault of the kits, and we'll come back to them. Other than that functionalities, Rising Gundam, like I said, in style, Rising Gundam already have all the exhaust out. The face mask is not covered by a regular Gundam face mask either, and the back of the head is basically all exhaust. So really, Rising Gundam isn't trying to hide how hot it could run. And we also have seen the head falcons and shoulder machine cannons, standard defensive weapon, not much to talk about. And now we should talk about this blue thing on Rising Gundam's left arm. It is in fact a bow, a beam bow to be exact. In the show, there will be beam strings coming out to either end, and Rising Gundam would be pulling the beam string to launch the beam arrow shot from the beam generator. Now, as far as I can tell, the beam string is just there as a mechanical connection for shooting the beam arrow. It doesn't really need the bow arms to shoot them. But, you know, it is a good visual. Too bad the set does not include the bowstring and the eventual beam arrow bolt. But the extension mechanism works, and yeah, I quite like it. Even just as a oversized beam gun on the side. Next is a beam machine gun, or more like a beam submachine gun. Very much a Gundam version of the grease gun. It has optics, scoped, and I painted them. A nice addition that Rising Gundam can hold with its hand. And it have a tab that you can attach to the side of the forearm. So why does Rising Gundam need so much freehand? That is because it have a hit naginata. It uses a hit blade instead of beam blade. Presumably to extend the fighting time, because Devil Gundam is quite resilient with its regeneration ability. The articulated fingers allow you to hold the hit naginata in different places without being awkward, or even a handshake grip for some even more dynamic poses. And you can store the hit naginata on the backpack. It has a little tension tab, and it is very secured. Now you will see a second set of the shoulder armor, but much wider. That is because Rising Gundam's shoulder armor is supposed to form a shield. You can use the beam bow mechanism to hold it very far off to the front, or you can retract it, to the side like a regular Gundam shield. In shield form, it matters a lot less that it does not have the correct color correction. And I would like to think the beam bow still works if the pilot is willing. But this is not it. We still get the beam saber from Shining Gundam. Rising Gundam, once again, no trouble at holding them. And to show how old this thing is, this beam saber actually breaks in the sprue. And that's how bad the ages have treated this kit. That's why I suspect this is at least 20 years old. But this is not it. With the Shining Gundam parts on the side, you can't really do much about them. You can replace, if you're willing, you can replace this storage block for a beam saber holster. But because this guy doesn't hold in that well, that's why I am not doing that. This is back of Shining Gundam's head. As you can see, it does not have the exhaust frill like Rising Gundam does. Those fins are not included in this kit, obviously, because this is the Rising Gundam kit. You also get Shining Gundam's face mask. If you want to, you can replace Rising Gundam's side exhaust to this face mask. But again, I like Rising Gundam, like this look of Rising Gundam better. So yeah, another customization option. You also get the open up version of the face mask if you want to do that look. I have been dancing around that long enough, so let's go to the main feature of this 1:100, which is the colander. And like the torso, it have the in-sprue color separation done. And sure, the Heat Naginata carrier is sort of blocking it, but it's also providing a stable platform for it to rest on. And you can see there's a seat for the colander's cockpit. That also explains why the top of the backpack looks like this, because they are thrusters that looks like taillights. There is a joint that allow you to move the cockpit of the colander down so that it is in its cruising mode, but that mechanism isn't so great. It just popped the cockpit hatch without really going down. Press in. Oh, there you go. There it goes. So yeah, not completely flawless, but still pretty cool gimmick for having the colander alongside with the mobile fighter. Now allow me to painfully put this back. Oh, that's easier than I thought. And put it back. And yeah, it is super secure at the back there. Rising Gundam's foot can actually go into super mode if you want to. All the mechanism is still there. But this is not done in the anime. So let's just put it back into normal mode. Like it's meant to be. Gimmick wise, I don't think I can pick on the Rising Gundam too much. It has everything plus more from the anime. The spare parts from Shining Gundam allow you to do some of your own customization out of the box. The colander being a complete model itself, that is quite a lot. Now you might say, this is a 1:100 kit. You should expect all this gimmick, don't you? Which we should talk about in absence. Absence is what the kit failed to do or failed to deliver. And in case of this HG1:100 Rising Gundam, it did deliver the color for the shoulder armor and shield, just in color correction sticker. It also delivered in the mode change, again with color correction stickers. And action-wise, yes, it is not fully articulated. You can't raise the arm above 60 degrees. The legs can't really kick to the side. Kicking to the front is limiting as well. But overall, not too terrible. And the fact that you can store all the weapons on Rising Gundam is pretty good. In sprue color separation, that is very good. And all of this package in a 1:100 did cost you quite a few back then of 1,500 yen. 1500 JPY before tax. And since Bandai didn't take a steep price hike, and this price point is where the Linzer is sitting at. And you're getting a lot more color and a lot more gimmick than the Linzer. Now, in the Linzer's defense, it have a lot less of these very ugly gaps. But you're getting more plastic out of this thing. I have to restate again. This design was done 30 years ago. So in terms of absence, I have to give it an S. There's nothing really missing here, and so far this is the definitive edition of Rising Gundam. There's no Master Grade, even 1.0. There's no HGUC. There's no RU100 or what have you. So this is the definitive edition of Rising Gundam yet. Even with the release of HGUC Shining Gundam about a decade ago, we still didn't get a P-Bandai of Rising Gundam. With the upcoming release of the RG Shining Gundam, I hope we get something modern for the Rising Gundam. It is mostly the same with quite a bit of fun gimmick addition. And it is a demonstration of how mobile fighter can be made into a war-toting mobile suit. That's why I have to give an S for absence for this HG1-100 Rising Gundam. So, to recap, style-wise, while not 100% accurate to the line art, the Rising Gundam managed to skirt the line between the anime and the line art and present a sensible ratio, at least back in the 90s, as a cool robot. Now, it does have some very archaic part separation, and color separation isn't quite on point, so it only gets a B in style. Action, again, this is only a HG from the 90s. So while it does have double jointed knee and double jointed elbow as well as articulated fingers on his hand, I can only give it a B for how overall limiting the posings are. Now for Gimmick, while they do have to give you 2 sets of shoulder armor to recreate the getting them into shield form, the fact that you can attach one version of the shoulder armor to the bimbo to form the shield, the bimbo still have its extension mechanism, and the bimbo, can extend even without the actual beam arrow and beam strings. It is still a very good gimmick. The beam machine gun being quite well sculpted, at least for the time, and can attach to Rising Gundam's forearm very securely. The Heat Naginata secured to Rising Gundam's backpack very securely, and the core lander being secured very well to Rising Gundam itself is enough to earn an S for Gimmick. Again, this is a kit from the 90s. Finally, absence. It is easily an A because you got extra parts and nothing is missing from Rising Gundam for the anime, save for maybe a openable hatch, but the open hatch gimmick is pretty much reserved for Master Grade or even larger scale, so I wouldn't hold it against Rising Gundam here. What's more, this is the most detailed gimmick-rich version of Rising Gundam Bandai had offers. For absence, in honor of being the best Rising Gundam on the market, I have to give it an S. So the verdict for the HG1-100 JMF1336R Rising Gundam is B for style, B for action, S for gimmick, and S for absence. Like I have said, this is the best version of Rising Gundam we have so far. There was a great opportunity for Bandai to release a better version 10 years ago. They didn't do it. Let's hope they do in the near future. Even so, I would still recommend a reprint of this kit if you want to collect more G Gundam Gunpla. Thanks for watching. See you next time.